Okay, now, as you're embarking, you've got your transitions worked out, and you've got your thread, you've got your point, the theme that you're expressing. Now, you just need a good starting point, okay? Because you need to invite the audience to join you on the journey. Once they're on the roller coaster, you can't really get off, right? You're committed for the whole thing. But the key is getting someone on the ride. Because if they're not on the ride with you, then they're not going to follow along. You can be physically seated in class and not on the ride, right? You can just be spaced out. So the real thing is getting people on the ride, because that's half the challenge. Once they're on the ride, then they're going to follow through most likely, unless things go really wrong or whatever. But they'll stay along. So a beginning is very important. You want a good starting point. And often a good starting point is actually a story, a vignette, an incident that you can draw. When you make a point, I am going to tell you that, and the natural human reaction is to close up internally, to say, what are you trying to tell me? And I don't know if I'm going to believe that. Let's see. Convince me. But when you tell someone a story, once upon a time, right? The natural human reaction is to open up. Really? What happened? You're not trying to convince me of anything. It's just a story. I love a story. So when you want to pull someone in, start your talk, your lecture with a story, an analogy, some kind of metaphor, something that's not a point, right? Not a point to make. Something to draw the audience in. In one of my classes at the university, I give a talk on the theme of Hindu imagery. How can people understand the iconography? So many paintings and designs and deities and so on. So we have a lecture on what is murti, the physical form, and why this is divine and not material. And so we need to really work with that, because most people are from a Christian background, and where the creation of imagery and iconography and statues is really difficult for them. And so to begin that class, I put up an image from a single frame from the original Lion King animated film. And it's the final scene in the film, if any of you have seen it, where, what's the monkey's name? No, the monkey's name. Rafiki, right? So Rafiki, the monkey, is holding up the little Simba. He's holding up Simba, right? So at the very end, he's holding up Simba over this mountain peak to present the new king, the heir to the throne, right? So this little kid, or it's Simba's child, actually, Simba's child, right? He's putting it up here and saying, here's your new king, and all the animals are assembled below, and they're hailing their new prince, okay? So I put this, and everyone in the class, they know this film. They've watched it 100 times. So I put this up, and I say, okay, so imagine I don't know what this is about. I've never seen this image. I've never watched the movie. I've just arrived in the United States, okay? Let me interpret for you what's happening here. This monkey is an evil guy who's captured the king's child, and he's ready to throw him off this cliff and kill him. And all the animals down below are up in arms, screaming and hoping that their prince or this animal doesn't die. And everyone goes, that's completely wrong. I say, that's totally wrong, right? But I justify it by looking at what's happening there. And I say, this is how I'm reading this image, right? This is my explanation. Why? Because I'm coming from a place of complete ignorance. I don't know what the story is about. I don't know the context for it. I don't know American culture well, so I'm completely misreading it. Then I shift that image to one of Lord Nrsingadev with Prahlad and Hiranyakashipu on his lap. And I say, now you read that image. What's being said here? And they say, well, it's a demon. Right? Someone evil tearing apart someone else. And there's this kid who's horrified. And, of course, it's a misread. And I say, exactly. This is completely wrong. And the reason is because reading an image takes as much work, maybe more work, than reading words off a page. You need to, just like you need to learn a language to read the words, you need to learn a visual language to read an image. And when you look at a statue in a Hindu temple, you think, the golden calf. This is idolatry. This is terrible. But no, this is not how the worshiper is seeing that image. You have to get into the eyes of the person who knows how to read the image. So let's read this image together, right? And then I tell them the story of Lord Nrsingadev. And then we talk about idolatry. So the point is, that's a hook, right? That was the point, that this was that initial image was just a hook. It was a story they know, they love, and once you've got them on the hook, then they're in for the ride, right? They're not going. So the beginning is very important. And if there's anything we plan, is the beginning. And just before the class, if there's anything to review from your notes, it's the beginning. Because once you're on that ride, it may not go exactly where you want it to go. So many classes, you prepare one thing and you end up somewhere else. It's just the nature of the conversation. That's okay. That's okay. But the beginning is something that you want to have in mind already. Okay?